All right, Jeff, welcome back to the pod.
Jonathan, great to see you. Great to be here again.
You've been busy writing a book, I'm assuming without the help of Chat GPT or any other AI, The Mental Edge for Young Athletes. And you have so much knowledge that's not only applicable to younger players, but pretty much any type of player. And when I was looking over the book this morning, one of my favorite chapters that stood out right away was the one on expectations.
Hmm.
It's obviously super important for your development, how you can play well, how you can be relaxed. So I'd love for you to just kind of open up and tell me how you see expectations and how that could be harmful for a player.
Look, the expectations comes in all the time, right? I feel like it just poisons the conversation. If it's the classic should win. Who do you play? Oh, you should win, and so if you do win, you're supposed to, and if you don't, you've kind of failed, right? So there's really nothing helpful about it. Players talk about it all the time, though, right? And parents, oh, you should beat that player and so forth. So it's really important to get that word out of our vocabulary. I call it a six-letter swear word, and I just think it's always, of course, about outcome, right? And what about that player plays amazingly well that day, and you have a medium day? So there's so much else to focus on, other metrics than just you should this or you should that. So that's a classic one, and we need to get it out.
How do you most people I find have unrealistic expectations. They it's always higher. Very rarely does someone have too low of expectations where they're like, man, they're a 4-0 and they're like, I really hope I can maybe beat this 3-0 today. It's usually they're a 4-0 and they're playing a 4-5, or they're an 8 UTR playing a 9 UTR and they're like, hey, I should be in this and I should probably win. And then they get tight, they get frustrated really quickly when things don't go well. Why do you think it is that a majority of people have maybe expectations that are slightly above what their level actually is?
Well, it's a good point. I mean, a lot of players I feel like play worse when they play down. They're scared to lose. So I feel like that's the more common one. The playing, some players play better because they feel like they quote have nothing to lose if the player's higher level and all of that. That being said, as far as the expectation, I think everybody, wants to believe they could or should play at their very highest level that they know of themselves, right? So you have those really great days, or your best forehand, your best backhand, whatever, and you think that's how it should show up, and it's usually a lot more nuanced than that when we play, and so. I do think people let it go a little bit more, but although there's a problem not believing, in fact, that you can beat somebody who's been ranked higher, or maybe they have a weapon or something you've heard from others. Oh, they're really good. So I think a lot of players kind of do more of the I don't think I'm good enough, and I certainly don't want to lose to a lower player because other people are going to think I'm not as good as they thought or I thought. So
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you know me pretty well at this point, but if I were to play, let's say, a 3-5 on YouTube, and I
mhm.
was going to put myself out there and see if I could beat him and show it to the world, do you think I would be nervous to play against a 3-5 and see if I could win?
You?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No, because I don't get nervous in general, but also there's zero chance I'm ever going to lose to a 3-5 for the
Correct.
next 25 years. So it's
Correct.
the skill gap is so extreme. Why would
Right.
I ever get nervous about that? So
Correct.
you talked about when people play someone below them and they get tight. To me, that's already telling on yourself that you actually don't think you're that much better, because if you really were, you'd go, oh, this is a walk in the park. It's a little bit of a waste of the time. I just got to kind of
Right.
get through this until I play better people. So do you kind of agree with that? That if you feel that when you're playing someone who's slightly below you, that's a good sign to yourself that it's actually not that easy a match because they are kind of within striking distance of your level.
Right. And so you play here, they're having a, really good day, you're having a bad day, there you are, you're in a battle, right? Because usually we play in some range like that, and but that is absolutely that you don't have the confidence that you can beat that player. Okay, they're one UTR lower, you're a 4-0 and they're a 3.75 player. And so but to believe that you have the tools, you can adjust. And I think it's important to again, it comes back to managing yourself out there and focusing on what you have control over, which is quite a lot actually, and not just getting swept away and if this and if that, then what are people going to say?
I have a funny story. So I just posted a YouTube video where I played a guy who's like a junior in college right now at Boise State. Very good player, still practicing in his prime, right? Like he's going to try to play some pro. I don't know how he'll do, but he's a very good player. I'm 41. I never hit in my lessons. My stance is if you want someone to hit cross courts, you can find someone much cheaper than me for that. So I basically feed balls. I don't really serve from the baseline. I haven't played a set in 3 years. So I
Right.
know I'm going to lose to this guy, but I want to show people how to play against someone better than them. Like I'm
Hmm.
like, this is going to be very tough, but I want to show them my approach. And I got a lot of comments where people were like, "Hey, wait, you're so humble. Thanks for putting yourself out there." And I was like, putting myself out there against someone that much better doesn't really feel like I'm putting myself on the line that much. If
Right.
I played someone my level or just below it and I lost, I
Right.
would feel like that's really showing some courage because some people might think less of me, whatever. But I found it interesting because I thought it just showed how high everyone's expectations were that if I lost to someone, even if they were better than me, that was somehow shameful or something that I shouldn't necessarily be proud of. And so that was like a good reminder for me that still people's expectations are just way sky high. So, do you have any advice for how to either find accurate expectations or just try to eliminate outcome expectations completely?
Yeah, I mean, what we're talking, you're bringing up here is just it's so much ego and status and hierarchy, right? And the truth is, like, this is, in my belief, what I mean. Yeah, there's the tension of winning and losing is nice that we have that, right? Okay, we have that adrenaline, and we want to win, and all this. It's great. The problem is that our brains are conditioned to not really drop into the actual, as I say, metrics that are more, not only are they controllable, but they're more enjoyable. And then if and when we think about other people and what they're going to say, well, my feeling is, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. And most players say, well, yeah, if my best friend was playing and loses in 3 sets to someone who's ranked a little lower, how I ask them, how long do you think about your best friend losing to this player? And they're like, I don't know, like 30 seconds, or, they say, they kind of try to be nice at first. They're like, I don't know, like a little 10 minutes or something. I'm like, really? 10 minutes? You're going to really review that and sad for your friend? And fine, like a minute or two. Anyway, it gets down to usually about 10 seconds, 20, because it doesn't mean that you're selfish person. It's just that we like to see good tennis, we like to be inspired ourselves, and working on our games, but and also judging one match, if you win or lose a match, that's also not realistic to be dropped from this here, the pedestal, and then down because you lost in 3 sets and you missed a volley on the big point. And people don't, it may seem like people are remembering that. Um, you're remembering it and you're hoping they don't, but people are not as tuned in like that. And so there's a lot of illusion built into this. It doesn't mean that it's not, like, really gratifying, and people again appreciate good tennis. If you win a tournament and do well, they're impressed. Parents, coaches can be impressed, but to base our daily thoughts and standard of the match and our experience in the match on what other people going to think about that win or loss that day, by the way, as opposed to over a period of 6 months or a year. It's just all really not working well for a lot of players.
I
So,
couldn't think of anything that's a bigger waste of time. I'm like on the advanced old man path where I just don't care what anyone thinks. I hope to be a good person. I care what I think, and I want to be a good person. I
mhm.
want to compete the right way, do things the right way. But I couldn't think of a bigger waste of time before a match wondering if I'm going to win. Like I'm going to find out if the match is at 4 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, I'm going to have the answer. I just have to be patient either way. And then on top of that, well, what will so and so say if I lose? Well, I don't know. They're probably not going to say it to me anyway, and they're probably going to forget
Right.
about it and they're going to move on. So I have all this wasted energy. I'm on YouTube learning how to hit a better serve or learning how to move better or learning something about psychology or talking to someone like you. I just don't have enough time in the day to sit around wasting 30 minutes going, I wonder if I'm going to win this tennis match. And if I don't, what are all the made up scenarios? So I feel like people waste a lot of energy and honestly take it away from productive things like the process because they're so worried about this amorphous thing. What will people say? And in the end, no one really ever says anything to you if you don't
Right.
achieve it.
It's just this, right, exactly. And there's, I write about this in the book too, that we want people to think more about us and our game and our win, and but but it's really about having a project and working on specific aspects of your game and seeing, for example, in that match, instead of worrying, am I going to win or lose, and what's my rating going to be after, is can I step into most of my returns today? Like, I really want to step forward, or, I really want to be a little more patient and build the point. I want to play with controlled aggression today, which I talk about too, right? So it's like really immersing in these intentions that help you win. So, but also they're just it's more enjoyable to focus on this. So it's a focus thing at the end of the day too. Here of where do you want to put your attention?
I understand a lot of people do care what others think, and I'm a human being, so I do to an extent.
Sure.
And I saw something because I put myself on YouTube and I make mistakes all the time, or Instagram. I misspeak. I do something stupid. My clothing looks weird, whatever. And they said that when you make small mistakes, when you admit it or you kind of laugh it off, it actually makes people trust you and like you more because obviously everyone is not perfect. So everyone listening here has taken a horrible loss or played terrible tennis. And so I was just at a Padel tournament and they put us on the show court. We're Division 2. They
Hmm.
had some like high level pros there. And so we're on the show court and they're all waiting for us to get off. So all the pros are watching me. And
Hmm.
2 points in a row, I just completely misread the wall. Like I look like I'm in the spin cycle. I don't know where the ball is. I hit two of the worst shots and I just laughed. Like, what else
Right.
am I going to do at that point?
Yeah.
Like, it was just so bad. It's like, whatever. Like, I'm moving on. And I feel like when I move on, everyone else moves on. If I hang up on it or I get over upset about it, then I feel like everyone's looking at me like, wow, like this guy really doesn't have control. And then they are probably thinking probably some negative things about my character.
Hmm.
Do you kind of find that it's a good way to move on is just kind of laugh at yourself and just go, hey, yeah, I'm not perfect. And that will help you move forward in the future a little faster?
100% funny because I just saw my dad this past week, 92-year-old. He still plays ping pong. He still challenges me, and he says, Jeff, he said, you got to just treat life like a sitcom. It's just a sitcom. So whatever happens, you just laugh, you smile. It's like okay, and I feel like I'm big about expecting things. Whether it's a bad line call or you miss the sitter volley or so things are going to go wrong out there, and why should we be surprised when they do? We don't know when they're going to happen or which match, but and then we can accept it a lot easier. And I think what you're saying about the smile is a way to, I mean, literally, it's the opposite, right? On one hand, it's like, and then it does release serotonin. Djokovic figured this out years ago against Fed, and big smile, and he just ripped forehand cross winner, right? But it's, and Alcaraz does this. It's a great job, and I think the aspect of enjoyment and fun, which it's cliche, but if you're enjoying it, if you're smiling a little bit and not taking it, not reacting so intensely to every mistake or the big point that you just had a break point for the third time, and it's like that reaction you have. So the lost point is the loss. It's 1 point, right? The reaction we have to that point, I'm sure you've talked about this a lot, is really where it's at. And I wish my coaches, when I was younger, because Jeff, you just can't be so angry. I mean, you got to calm down. And I'm like, I don't know how. And so it's just our reactions are really strong, and we can get caught in our own. What I say is we get desensitized by ourselves. We're with ourselves all day, and so you're out there, you get mad, and you're feeling embarrassed, like you were saying, and so now you think everybody's looking and watching, but if you recognize that, I mean, errors happen all the time. Pros I've seen them whiff the ball even, right, big little win maybe, but things happen, and it's like the sooner you can just be like, it's all part of the. And by the way, it's a challenge too. Whatever happens, it's like that is an opportunity to see. Well, all right, now you're down 5-0, and you could be bageled in front of all your team.
My
Maybe.
Instagram and YouTube algorithms are all like totally self help, educational, like all that stuff's getting force fed to me. And I saw one and it stuck with me for a long time. And it was with any passage of time, you can probably laugh about any failure. You know, if
Mhm.
I look back at something I did 20 years ago that was super embarrassing, I'm going to tell someone now and it's going to be funny. And so they're like, well, if you can laugh about it 20 years later, why not just laugh about it 20 seconds later?
Right.
So the funny thing was, I ran a camp in Charleston, my doubles camp, And I asked my wife, I cut my hair before because I was like, I have to look like a normal human being. I
Mhm.
asked my wife if she could kind of trim the back of my neck, and she's on her phone. She's not paying attention. And she takes the buzzer and just shaves a 6 inch landing
Oh,
strip on the back of my head. So I'm completely bald. And she looks at me mortified. And I just started laughing because I was like, look, this is horrible. But
yeah.
what are we going to do now? Like, we can't do anything now, and people are probably going to laugh anyway. And we're going to laugh about this in a year. So let's just laugh about it now, move on. Let's not be upset. But that's been super helpful for me, just realizing like all the failures. If I talk about the match at grass courts I played against Ryder to Hart, where I had 45 double faults,
Right.
45 when I was an
Wow.
18-year-old player, and I'm just about to go play the US Open. So I'm a good player. And I had 45 double faults. I promise you at the time, I didn't think it was funny. But now I tell people all the time, I'm like, can you believe I did that? And so it's a great piece of advice I heard is just learning how to
Right.
shrink that time and view it like you're going to think it's funny in a while anyway.
Well, it's a really great example, and and you're talking about perspective, right? And we try to impart this on kids, and and they look at you maybe when you tell them it's not that big of a deal, and it'll pass or whatever it is. Uh, for them in that moment, losing is it's a bomb just went off, right? And life for a moment just got dark, really dark, and there's no way out. Like depending on how, right? Some kids are a little worse than others, or take it harder. The intense personalities, highly sensitive kids. But the thing that I write about this in the book is that the famous Michael Jordan quote, I missed, how many shots in my career, and that's why I became successful because he failed, right? He says, and over and over and over. And and that's easy to say, like you were saying at you've won NCAA's, you're a millionaire, you have shoes made after you, right, et cetera. But then now you're a 15-year-old kid who's trying to doesn't really know yet how good they can be and hope they'll be good. And and so the logic would be, failure does lead to success, right? That when we mess up and we learn instead of beating ourselves up and playing safe again the next match just the same way and now we're not good, but rather we learn from it specifically, we take something away. Um, and then you do see the progress, and then you can believe in your ability to adjust in beating somebody you didn't beat before because you hung in there and changed your strategy, maybe whatever. But my point is that as kids, it's getting them to really just see for themselves when they do shift their focus, as I change the channel back to the moment, back to something relevant, and they get better and they see it and then they win. They've got their proof, not in 20 years, but so we as coaches, as parents, we need to help them, come back to these obviously these controllables and the things um, that they can do out there. Yeah.
When you mentioned junior players, I think this applies to everyone, but specifically juniors, you said parents should praise skill development, not potential. So can you explain why that's so important?
And really character development first. So I was torn. That might change in the future, but it's both. It's skill and development and character development, and because they'll be better people and better athletes when they choose to see these moments as challenge, when they choose to accept they're not perfect and assert themselves with other athletes or coaches or parents when they speak their mind and don't. So, but the word potential is sort of like should. Potential and should are two words. If they're ever two words to get out of our vocabulary as mentors, as athletes, are those two, and they both share this infinite. You're never there. So potential, when kids hear that, and a lot of parents and even coaches think it's like motivating, and that's why they do it. Like you have so much potential. Now, deductive reasoning, I know you get it, is okay, so I've not done it. They think I can do it, I'm capable of it, but I'm not. Why am I not achieving that results otherwise? and the word potential ricochets through them, and it's like kind of putting handcuffs on kids, really. Potential. Very few, unless they're super talented and super mentally, they have everything. Like it's not going to hurt them. Maybe it'll help them. You can do it. You can do it. But depending on the culture and how that's managed, but potential and you should win, and you've got to, like, so much potential. The kids, it creates anxiety for them, basically.
Again, but what a waste of time. Like, if I look at someone, I go, "Hey, I think you've got potential." Be like, "Well, is Stokey right all the time?" Absolutely not. Or I go, "Hey, if a parent asks me, "Hey, do you think my kid could be a pro?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know." Well, does that mean I'm also right? Like, I've been wrong a million times before. So it's all just people's made up expectations or your own expectations. And you can just live in the present and just go, "Hey, I'm just going to go out and have a good day of practice and get better and see where that gets me tomorrow." And if you're trying to be a professional, then in 15 or 20 years, you'll find out if you were good enough. But I feel like the tour is littered with players who themselves didn't think they'd be a pro and other people didn't think they'd make it. I was just talking to JY Obone, and he was talking about when he was working with McCartney Kessler about a couple years ago. And he's like, there was nothing special there. Like, I was like, she's playing, she's fine. He's like, she did work really hard, which is special, but the rest of her game was just fine. And now she's top 50. So anyone's prognostication of what she could be was probably wrong. She's probably overachieved by all metrics. So yeah, potential for me, I just feel like as a coach just gets thrown in that wasted time bucket of can I win? How good can I be? Living in the future and just making stuff up in your head.
Yeah, and I think that you just said it. Living in the future. I think we all have such a hard time, in myself included. But you have to continue to come back to the present. And if curiosity, I think, really comes into this conversation, needs to, because the more curious we are as coaches, parents, and help our children, our students, ask questions and be critical thinkers, and because they are now passively receiving so much information, and AI has only exponentially exacerbated that. So it's like, how can we step back and, okay, that serve is double faulting 12, 15 times, for 45, man, I wish you called me at the time, but like, how can we get curious about what you're doing and how to get that better, and get excited about the next match, that you're going to be a little looser, a little more aggressive, move the ball a little bit, spread the ball around more, and as opposed to, yeah, then I can, the potential of college and that school. And then it's kind of lazy too. It's a little lazy to have the conversation go to should, potential, future. Like, how about we talk about, like, what is, and see what that feels like. And I think that maybe that's a big part of the problem, the dimensions, we past, present, future. We need to come back constantly to right now, and what can we do right now that would be engaging and fun.
When you spoke about ego earlier, and I guess we all do. I would think my ego is more tailored towards I want to be someone who can handle all of this stuff. So I'm like, I want to be the person who's like, yeah, I don't succumb to expectations and I'm confident in who I am and I try to have a good process. And if that process only gets me 30,000 YouTube subscribers instead of a million, fine, then that's whatever. But I did things when I felt the right way and I'm proud of how I handled myself. So I feel like I channel my ego in that way. And I feel like a lot of tennis players out there really get that ego boost from just straight outcome, which doesn't always say so much about themselves as a person or themselves as a player, like you said, because you can play someone and they're having the worst day of their lives, right? But then you get that win and you think somehow that elevates your status. So I think that's super important. One thing you mentioned about staying in the present, and it kind of ties into the last thing I want to talk about. It's
Yeah,
huge, which is gratitude. And
yeah.
that's a big chapter in your book. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on just gratitude in general.
So, I mentioned this, I think, one other time on your show at around 30, or, I was playing opens, and before I started the seniors stuff. But I just remember this was a time Christopher Reeves had Superman. I mean, here we have Superman, right? And he's paralyzed, right? And it just was such a juxtaposition of how easily we can lose something that's so, what we take for granted, for one, right? Whether that's mobility or lots of things in our life that we can be grateful for. And just to, if it, bringing it to sports and tennis is to be out there competing, running, hitting a yellow ball to try to master the moment in yourself and win the match is a amazing. I mean, anybody who's actually doing that and the worst thing that happened to them is losing that match that day in the scheme of things is insane. I mean, that's like what a gift, right? But we lose this perspective, of course, out there, especially kids. And I think it's really important to come back to that and gratitude when you're nervous, when you're tight and you just missed a big point and you were up 4-1 and now you're down 5-4, all these moments to come back to gratitude. It's hard to be angry. It's hard to be really nervous and play tight and all these things when you truly are genuinely grateful for the opportunity. So I just think gratitude is a massive elixir, goes with a smile, and I think more people should compete with gratitude, as I write about.
Right. So you mentioned Christopher Reeves. That's something I'm always so happy that I can play. Like for me right now, it's Padel, but I'm so happy I'm healthy enough to play. Right. And so even if I play poorly, I'm like, hey, at least I got to play today. And guess what? I get another chance tomorrow. So I'm very, very happy whether the results there or not. You said that a lot of people, you go, yeah, they understand that, but then they lose that perspective. Why do you think you lose that? Because there's a lot of people out there that don't have the means to play tennis or don't have the physical health to play tennis. And then you come out and you play a bad match against another 3-5. And like you said, you think it's the end of the world and you lost that perspective in the moment. Why do you think that happens?
Well, it's all relative, isn't it? Like, so the world we're in there, it's the tennis environment and it is hierarchy and you have that. So it's not normal. I don't think it's that normal to be grateful when you're out and you just lost, you're up and now you're down. And it takes effort. It takes, a desire to be in the present and to see how well can you handle the whatever's thrown at you. And to keep that in mind that, and I don't know, I've always had that, or at least post 25 years, maybe 30 years old, I just had this perspective. We're not going to be here forever. And how can we, get suck the most juice out of the orange as possible? And I also want to make the point that it's not like, oh, winning doesn't matter, winning and losing, like, because people dichotomize this and it bothers me because it does matter. It helps you get into bigger tournaments and go to colleges that you'd like to go to and not to, and play on teams, and it feels good to win, uh, and it feels good to be validated and respected. That's built into our wiring, right? So that's not a bad thing to want to win and not lose. It makes the game exciting, but it's what do we do next though? What's that runway look like that we get to co-create? How do we want that to be? Can we stay in the present? And I just think it's the brain, the human brain jumps to the future and the scarcity mindset and all these things. And we got to hack it and know when our brain is going to run left, right, and coach our brain. Everybody, coach your brain.
You mentioned staying in the present a couple times. What is your singular best tip, drill, thought exercise that can get someone back into the present in a match when they're clearly thinking about the future or dwelling on the past?
Yeah, I think some people need a really, concrete, demonstrative thing, and like a really, really good deep breath or two. Like it's got to be a habit and do it. To take a really good deep breath properly. So it actually does start to relax you. But if you do it wrong, it actually activates the sympathetic nervous system. We need to have it be the brake on the car, which is a deeper breath. So breath is good. Centering your mind into your core, your navel is really good. Dropping out of your head. As you know, a lot of players like my feel your feet walking on the ground. So that's the furthest thing from your head. So it's really getting more aware of catching yourself when you wander and bring yourself back to something tactile, something in the moment. Could be something you see or touch, but touch is really good. It brings you back into the present, but you're not judging, you're not thinking, you're back in the present physically. So
I heard someone say about like what is meditation? they basically said thoughts pop into your head like sounds. So whenever I try to record an Instagram video outside, there's like a bird chirping right by me. That sound just kind of happens. I didn't know it was coming. It's just there, and I can choose to be like, that was a sound and move on, or I can sit there and think about the sound all the time. Why'd that happen? What? And so there's so many thoughts that pop into my head randomly. Like
Of course.
if you're playing, well, what if I lose? Like you didn't
Right.
sit there and go, you know what I want to think is I want to start thinking about what if I lose. It just happened,
Right.
but then you're kind of allowed to just let that thought just pass on by on the river. Is that kind of in terms of staying in the present slash meditation? Is that kind of how you should be viewing those thoughts that pop up during a match?
A great question. And what coming back to the reaction we have to the thought. So you have the thought. It's the same with a score. Like we react to all these things. So you have a thought, and now because you have that thought, you think, what if you're having a thought that what if I lose, then maybe you will lose now. Kids think, right? And then you're trying to not think that thought, and you're in the rabbit hole. So I use the analogy of a car going by. Okay, car goes by, and do you let the car go by or do you get in it? If you get in it, now you're in the thought, and now it's going to take you wherever you let it take you. Versus looking at the thought. So there's a difference between looking at things from the thought. This is really bad. I'm playing horrible. What if I lose? Or seeing that you're having the thought and you let the car go by, and then you refocus your attention on the task at hand. Pick down the tee, tactic maybe, but so I talk about changing the channel. Like so in the book, that giving players a remote control. Like we have to, and then we put the buttons on it. They've got to be the ones, and that's the reason I wrote this book, is because kids don't realize they have a remote control. They don't think they do, but if they feel like they have one, they've got a few buttons on there, they can start pressing them. And that's a sense of control and confidence in and of itself, rather than thoughts are controlling them. The score is not in their favor and all of that stuff. So they're a victim.
This is right at my wheelhouse. You sent me the book this morning. I already read about a third of it while we were leading up to this. It's awesome. Can you just remind people the name of the book and where they can find it if they're looking to get that mental edge?
Absolutely. I'm really excited about it. It's the mental edge for young athletes. 27 chapters, short chapters, just like the best tennis of your life. And there's a parent section in the back, so families, kids, and parents can kind of read it together. That's what's happening now. And so there's conversations that are beginning, and I'm super excited about that part, so they can kind of sync up and hopefully have better car rides there and back. So
So it's all about the good car ride. Well, hey, Jeff, as always, amazing having you on. I love that car analogy with the thoughts. I'm definitely going to steal that one. It's amazing. Encourage everyone to go check out the book. Lots of helpful things. And thanks for being back on the pod.
Jonathan, great to be with you again. Take care, man.